Hey, remember when I said I hopefully wouldn't have Fan Feature 3 delayed? Welp, here we are! Delayed again! For info's sake on behind the scenes stuff, everything that was submitted after Fan Feature 2 was taken into account for judging. This in turn gave me a huge influx of builds to choose from, 134 not counting times people who resubmitted builds to update it. I don't know if everyone who's submitted will even see this considering, but whatever, let's finally get this done. First up is Levitain by Anti-Rio, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. If there's units I don't expect to be mixed tanks, Levitain is certainly one of them. Instead of making her a focused attacker, she's now an all-around bulky unit with quick repetitive glimmers to top it off. It's also an interesting use of Special Spiral from the usual Heavy Blade AoE set. Buff her up and she's getting bonuses to every aspect of her. Next up is an Amelia by Baka. This right here is a really interesting use of Gale Force, with a massive stack of passive buffs. With the help of Brazen's and Bold Fighter, this Amelia can easily plow through foes, and as long as the opponent doesn't have a guard effect, she's essentially guaranteed a follow-up. Doing this, also making her somewhat mixed, is probably one of the most creative uses of Brazen builds I've seen. Third in line is May, courtesy of Baker. What's better than a Special Spiral AoE mage? A Special Spiral AoE mage with Desperation. It's easy to just throw together an AoE unit like your average Aetheraids Ophelia, but this is like that, but better. Why is it better? Desperation. I know it sounds like a dumb reason to choose it, but with that offensive stat line, it's essentially a guaranteed kill, even if the first hit doesn't do it for whatever reason. After this is a Kaze by Blackbird. Null Sea Disrupt, and an entire kit based around taking magic. This is a build that isn't gonna put up with magic users, be they staves or tomes. On top of this, the Splashy Bucket helps deal with dragons that may want to mess him up. It may seem counterproductive to let them attack based on his defense, but that can actually help him set up Brazen. The problem with a lot of single bulk type units is that it can be hard to safely activate Brazens if they struggle beforehand. Splashy Bucket allows for another option entirely, which I find really clever. There's also another Kaze that I want to half feature here that didn't make it into top 10 by a very small margin by feature max. Both builds honestly are great, and it wasn't easy to pick between the two. I normally won't do this, but I'll make a special exception here because it was so close. Our next build is a Windsweep Ephraim, courtesy of Disa. I'm just going to pretend that Darting Blow is fully maxed out for the sake of it. With the power of Windsweep, Ephraim not only doubles, but doubles without being doubled himself, solving in my opinion, his worst problem. This also makes Ephraim more viable with Flame Sigmund without worrying about getting obliterated by each and every unit he faces. This Micaiah was submitted by Jimathias. As I said about Kaze, this Micaiah is going to take any magic unit, staves included. Although she's not going to do so hot against bows, anything magic is going to enjoy obliteration. Distant Defense 4 comboing with Null Sea Disrupt is also the perfect Veronica counter, disabling any buffs she may give to allies. This goes for things like Legendary Azura and Blade Tomes too, crippling offensive Aetheraids teams. Someone I'm sure Embor Buff would love. Ratadri here has an outstanding Reese. Witchy Wand with Sabotage Attack is like a dream come true for tanking. I've never actually seen a tank quite like this one, especially one that can cripple an enemy team all at once, while also maintaining bulk via res. Absolutely beautiful. Brought to us by himself, Seliph Hero of Light brings us a Seliph. Not only does the Seliph have a lot of bulk to keep him strong, but also about 1,000 ways to proc Ether. With all bonds active alongside Fierce Breath, Seliph has a whopping 71 attack. He also maintains a fixed bulk and a respectable speed when in action. His weapon also preventing him from being one-rounded, which essentially guarantees a Wrath Ether proc enemy phase if he's doubled. Fierce Breath also means that he can more easily get into Wrath range and instantly heal back out of it. Now for a pretty rare unit, a Garen by Snake Man vs Arbok. This Garen is an outstanding wall, making use of his bulk in a way that with a few buffs is just the perfect way to amplify things to infinity. Dull range is also the perfect way to remove the issue of Blade Tomes, poking a hole in him, especially when going up against Reinhardt's or Ishtar's. Our last submission to the top 10 is a wall heart by Tech Joke. Wall heart's weapon has been one that's gotten my attention for quite some time. Never in my life did I think, however, that I'd see a 46 speed one. He's bulky, he's fast, he's hitting upwards of 70 attack. That's just nuts for a cavalry unit. This on top of Panic and a godlike HP stat is just beautiful. With all those builds out of the way, it's time to move on to the long-awaited top 3 builds. In third place, Ratadri. Or should I say, Ratadris? Okay, I'll shut up. Like I said earlier, this Reese is great for demolishing all kinds of teams, especially pesky AoE tomes. Since so many units are reliant upon their skills to function properly, this Reese is the perfect anti-everything counter. Sabotage attack is just the icing on the cake. I'm certain Ambor would sing his praises of you, and my praises are that you are third place overall this fan feature. For second place, the build we talked about just moments ago, Tech Joke. When you think about it, his weapon is like a Spectrum solo. Having attack speed solo makes him have plus 10 to both his offensive stats, just for not being next to anyone. He may not have the greatest res, but 26 res with his massive HP and speed stat could still tank some mages and obliterate any physical unit in the vicinity. This with chill defense and panic ploy means he can easily throw himself at the enemy and enemy phase the whole team no sweat. This creative dual solo use gives you my number 2 spot in this fan feature. As for our winner, out of the 134 contestants who submitted builds to this fan feature, it's Snake Man vs Arbok! Not only is Garen a very overlooked character because of his odd typing in combination with other unit types, but with a little boost to his power, he essentially has no weakness. Well, aside from falchions anyway. But with bonus doubler, he's able to easily match their speed, and maybe even double when buffed. Back to my point though, he doesn't flinch to blade tomes, he doesn't flinch to magic, he doesn't flinch to speedy units, and he'll just sit back and heal himself of whatever may have scratched him. This is something that I almost never see, which is taking an underrated unit and making them into an absolute beast. For that, you are the first place contestant of Fan Feature 3. Thank you everyone for supporting this series despite its lack of consistency. A month for today is the deadline for Fan Feature 4 submissions. Open theme like this one was. For info's sake, I will not collect any build that was ranked in top 10 so that more people have a chance to get their own builds shown. If you had a build submitted to this fan feature, you can resubmit it if you like, but I would suggest against it since I judge builds on creativity, not overall scoring or whatever. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next fan feature.